And once you have these points in place, it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually stay safe and healthy with whatever you decide to do. And it's going to help you design a beginner cycle that is more sensible. Not this random junk advice online, but actually being able to sit down with yourself and being like, okay, I'm specifically targeting the anabolic vector this much. Hey guys, so in this video, I want to go through how steroids actually work, and if you are thinking of designing your own steroid cycle, a little bit of education about what's actually going on. Now, I see a lot online on forums, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, social media about cycles, and these young guys, 18, 19 years old, doing the dumbest cycles and using compounds that they don't even need to be using and hitting the same pathway with like 3 different compounds where one would work, using multiple injectables, orals, human growth hormone, even peptides or other ancillaries like Clen. And they're wondering why they have massive acne issues, massive mood swings, feeling gross, having issues with gyno, for example, overly emotional. And I can't tell you how many guys come to me or message me needing help with their blood work or interpreting their blood work, or they have terrible liver, kidney values, their organ scans are out of whack, enlarged hearts, thick left ventricles, high blood pressure, all these things. The list goes on, and all these things, these guys come to me because they need help, because they've been doing dumb things. So in this video, I'm going to go through how some of the steroids work, what you need to be understanding, and then actually, if you want to and you do decide to go down that path, that you're as best informed as you can be and as educated as you can be, because some of these compounds have serious adverse health risks that you should know about. So in this video, I'm going to go over a concept that is going to change how you look at certain compounds, and how, if you do decide to use a compound, how you actually understand how it works in your body. And that concept is called myotrophic to androgenic dissociation. Now, what is this? Well, steroids grow both muscle tissue itself, but they also have androgenic effects on androgenic tissues across the body. So androgenic is more talking about things like the prostate, the kidney, the liver, the skin. Androgenic effects, for example, are things like excessive hair growth, acne, masculizing features. For example, if a female takes androgenic compounds, she will start to get a deeper voice, enlarged clitoris, for example, growth of body hair, especially around the beard, facial hair. These are things that are very androgenic, but there is a difference between how a compound works in the muscle versus how it works in androgenic tissues. And this is basically the idea of muscular to androgenic or myotrophic to androgenic dissociation, is how far apart is that split. So basically, myotrophic to androgenic dissociation is the extent to which a steroid can build muscle versus how much it affects these androgenic tissues. Testosterone, being the natural hormone for men, is basically 1-to-1. So it has just as much muscle building potential as androgenic potential. It is just as myotrophic as it is androgenic. However, in designing a steroid cycle, if you are going to go down this path, understanding how far apart these are is really important. For example, a compound like Superdrol has an androgenic rating of 400 and an anabolic rating of 20, which means it's going to be incredibly androgenic compared to anabolic. In fact, the 20 to 400 ratio is saying it's pretty much 20 times more androgenic than it is going to build muscle. So it will affect androgenic tissues like the prostate, kidney, skin a lot more than muscle building. Now, not only this, but you also need to understand 5-alpha reductase and the aromatase enzyme. These are 2 enzymes that convert testosterone into either DHT in the case of 5-alpha reductase, or estradiol or estrogen in men in the case of the aromatase enzyme. But it is important to understand whether certain compounds can be substrates for these or not. So we know that testosterone can be converted and metabolized or reduced into DHT and estrogen. And for example, it being a substrate for 5-alpha reductase increases its potency by 5 times. So DHT, for example, is 5 times more androgenic than testosterone. So when testosterone is converted to DHT, obviously its androgenicity goes up by about 5 times, but some compounds are not able to be reduced in this way. In fact, some compounds are not able to be converted into estrogen or go down the 5-alpha reductase pathway and be converted into a DHT derivative. And something that I see missed on a lot of forums and these so-called coaches online coaching top-level bodybuilders, something that they miss is the following idea, and that is that by utilizing this information, a possible basis for increasing the myotrophic to androgenic ratio may be exploiting the fundamental difference between the 5-alpha reductase concentrations in skeletal muscle versus androgenic tissues. Now, muscle itself basically has no 5-alpha reductase enzyme. So for example, one way of increasing the anabolic to androgenic dissociation is to administer, for example, a steroid that has a greater binding affinity for the androgen receptor, but on reduction down the 5-alpha reductase pathway, like testosterone goes down to DHT, on reduction, it has a lower affinity for the androgen receptor. So for example, something something like nandrolone nor testosterone is able to go down the 5-alpha reductase pathway and be converted from nandrolone to something called DHN. Now, DHN, dihydronandrolone, has a much lower potency than nandrolone itself and a much lower binding affinity to the androgen receptor than its parent steroid, nandrolone. And this is precisely why nandrolone has an anabolic to androgenic ratio of 37 to 125, saying it's 3 times as more anabolic than it is androgenic, precisely because its 5-alpha reductase reduction actually reduces its potency, unlike testosterone, where the 5-alpha reductase reduction increases its potency. And here is the key bit for all of you guys out there: looking at the list of anabolic to androgenic ratios and understanding that certain compounds come from different types of parents. For example, they can either be DHT derivatives, they can either be testosterone derivatives, or they can be 19-nortestosterone or nandrolone derivatives, that is the parent steroid. This information is going to be key because it can really help you design something that is going to be a lot safer for your body than, for example, blasting tren and multiple different compounds and hoping for the best. Not just some guy on Reddit being like, yeah, take 300 milligrams of tren acetate per week. Because if you look at the list, you can start to understand, if you're already hammering an anabolic pathway, do you really need more compounds that are heavily on the anabolic side? So for example, if you're heavily smashing the anabolic vector with something like nandrolone, which is a lot more anabolic than it is androgenic, do you really need more muscle anabolism? Maybe not. And this also will give you a little bit more insight into how to choose compounds for your first cycle, for example, that are goal oriented, not just taking random information online and hoping for the best. It's actually like, are you looking for more strength based stuff? Are you a power lifter going for pure numbers? Are you a bodybuilder looking for muscle mass? Are you in a growth phase or a cut phase for a prep or a show? For example, pairing Anavar and nandrolone, which both have very high anabolic ratings compared to how androgenic they are, with a large dissociation between these two numbers, which is a large dissociation between their androgenic to their myotrophic potentials, it's probably not a great idea to combine Anavar with nandrolone. You're already smashing the anabolic pathway, and just one of these compounds will suffice for the goal. On top of that, understanding whether this compound or whatever compound you decide to use is a substrate for 5-alpha reductase to be reduced to DHT, for example, or a DHT derivative, or aromatase, for example, is going to be super important. And what is the anabolic to androgenic dissociation of this new compound that is produced is going to be very important. For example, some DHT derivatives cannot be aromatized, so managing low E2 sides is going to be also important in this whole profile and hormonal profile. If you're on DHT derivatives like Anavar, for example, you may start to have low E2 sides because some of these compounds don't convert into any form of estradiol. So in conclusion, understanding and setting yourself up for success and trying to stay as healthy and safe as possible if you are to go down this route. Obviously, I recommend against it, but if you are to go down this route, my philosophy has been always that if you're going to do it, you're going to do it anyway. I can't really stop you and no one can really stop you, but please just try and educate yourself and keep as safe as possible if you do decide in your own time and personally if you decide to go down the route. But some of the key points to understand: you need to understand the anabolic to androgenic dissociation or ratio of the compound or compounds you're looking at. You need to understand if the compound's interaction with 5-alpha reductase changes that mix and maths in any way, and if it's aromatizable or non-aromatizable to any form of estradiol or estrogen. You need to understand where the compound comes from. Is the parent steroid DHT? Is the parent steroid testosterone? Or is the parent steroid something like nandrolone or boldenone? You need to understand your goals. So is it pure strength? Is it muscle mass? Is it bodybuilding? Is it powerlifting? Is it prep? Is it growth phase? Is it bulk cut? All of these things you need to be strong on and understand exactly why you're choosing a compound for that goal. For example, it would be quite rare to prescribe something like Anavar to a bodybuilder who's not looking just for pure strength and is more just looking for size. And once you have these points in place, it's going to be a lot easier for you to actually stay safe and healthy with whatever you decide to do. And it's going to help you design a beginner cycle that is more sensible. Not this random junk advice online, but actually being able to sit down with yourself and being like, okay, I'm specifically targeting the anabolic vector this much. For example, I'm specifically targeting the anabolic vector 3.643 times more than the androgenic vector, and the maths is there and strong, and quantifying this and being able to keep your eye on the goal is going to honestly keep you so much more safe than just jumping online and injecting yourself with tren, injecting yourself with boldenone or Masteron, or taking orals like D-Bol, Winstrol, and significantly messing with your lipids, with your liver values, with your kidney values, with your blood work. So that list is going to keep you safe, healthy, and goal oriented on what you actually need to achieve as safe and healthy as possible. Again, if you're going to go down this route, it's your choice and your choice alone. But my philosophy, like I've said, is just to try to put out as much education as possible to keep you safe and healthy. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it anyway, at least try and take some education into the process, because your long-term health and your body will certainly thank you. At least understand the science and be educated. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I'm putting out a lot of educational content just for you guys to keep you safe and healthy in the fitness industry, and I will see you in the next video.